I got home earlier than I expected and heard something that took me aback. This instrument is huge. I've indulged in it 4 times in the past 24 hours. My girlfriend, you won't believe what happened today. His size is unbelievable, and I simply can't resist it. We went at it 4 times. I heard those words from my wife today, and I can barely walk straight. I was stunned. Karen, my wife, had always seemed refined to me. I never thought she could. I was taken aback when she added, "Once the divorce is finalized, I'll be taking your money. My boyfriend's a lawyer and he's handling everything." I was shocked to hear her say those 3 words. She had never actually uttered them before. She thought I wanted to hear what she had to say. She wouldn't expect me until tomorrow. That must be why she was so tight-lipped. I got home early from my business trip with a designer purse in hand, which I'd bought as a surprise for her. I didn't realize at the time. There was a bigger surprise in store. The bag felt heavy in my pocket, not because of the price tag, but because of how it made me feel. Karen's words kept coming back to me, like a bad soundtrack to a movie. I kept buying her gifts, and it became a kind of ritual. After another long business trip, I finally got to enjoy a treat. The company in the trip seemed endless, just like her smiles. I worked hard to make her smile, and I loved it. But now, each label, it felt like a searing brand upon my skin. I couldn't face her tonight. I needed refuge, and there was only one place I could think of, the Hive. It might be a hotel with a great view of the lake. I needed time to think. I might be too late as I sat at the hotel bar with a whiskey in my hand. I couldn't shake the thoughts of my wife's infidelity, but at least the apartment door was slightly ajar. I found out the truth straight from the source. Yeah, I love his green eyes, but Kim, I love his big organ. Her words twisted like a knife in my gut. Who was this guy? That man I passed in the elevator. Earlier, the guy who maybe left our door open on purpose didn't matter at the time. What mattered was making a plan to save my company, the same company I'd built long before I even met her. The plan was hard to find, overshadowed by the throbbing pain in my throat. After a few too many drinks, I had another shock this morning. Isabella, my high school sweetheart, turned up at my hotel room. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my throat still raw from the whiskey. She blinked, then a hint of pity crossed her face. "What's happened to you?" I asked, feeling a little lost. "This is the second time you've lost it." My brain was neutral. She smiled, but I couldn't place it. "Don't you remember? Watch where you're going, lady." That was yesterday. Why was she still here? If I'd been rude twice, what was it again? Noah washed over me. "We relax," she said. Her voice was cool. Nothing happened. It was almost as if she'd planted a seed in my mind with the shades. "What's going on?" I demanded, desperate to dispel the odd feeling in my gut. "We must have had too much last night." You said softly. The pieces began to click, but not in a comforting way. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "I'm sorry for being rude. There's a lot going on right now." Her eyes held a glimmer of sympathy. She said quietly, "I'm so sorry for what happened." A shiver ran down my spine. How did she know? Did I tell her everything? Did I share every dandy tale? "Yes, you did." I realized I must have blacked out and spilled the beans. This wasn't a story to share, especially not with my high school ex. He came at me like a runaway train. Then you had the nerve to shout, "Watch where you're going, lady." The audacity was enough to make me see that I was on the verge of unleashing a verbal onslaught. Then, all of a sudden, we both recognized each other. Your eyes got really big and you started apologizing like crazy. You said, "Anything I want, just name it, and I'll buy it for you." You offered, but I thought, a girl's got to seize the opportunity. The advantage was clear in one mind, a bitter sand TRCT to the train wreck of a memory from yesterday. Isabella must have noticed the shame etched on my face, so the master planner figured it all out while you slept. She quipped, her attempted humor sharp. I was still trying to figure out whether I should cut her loose, but her voice interrupted my thoughts. "Let's talk plans over breakfast." "This place is supposed to be great," she added, giving me a glimmer of hope. Why not? Maybe she could offer some assistance. Memories of high school flashed through my mind. Isabella had always been sharp, and a fresh perspective might be just what I needed. Breakfast arrived, and I engaged in small talk to ease the awkwardness. "So, What do you do for a living? I asked her, do you live here? She smiled, a slow, almost predatory grin spreading across her face. You don't remember, William? I'm a lawyer, corporate law specifically dealing with companies like yours, she emphasized, sending a shiver down my spine. My lawyers were competent, but this was personal, messy. I could use her help, a thought that crept in despite my reservations, but I forced a smile. You're a lawyer, huh? Well done. I'm proud of you. A rush of nostalgia flooded over me. We were in different places in our lives when we broke up. I was still in college, chasing my tech dreams, while she was already at law school. It wasn't a dramatic breakup. It was more of a slow fade. I guess I fell out of love. I had convinced myself back then that William would make a good lawyer, but as I mentioned last night, you need to carefully consider all the options. She spoke matter-of-factly, yet her eyes held a glimmer. I couldn't shake the feeling of paranoia. Was this all an act? I apologized for my rudeness. It was a bit strange. I met my wife, and then I realized I'd told her my whole story last night. I told her how I met my wife. Watch where you're going, sir. She was very polite, like an old-fashioned grandmother, but there was something different about her. Her entire appearance, from the pressed skirt to the pearls, screamed of a different era compared to all those girls in their torn jeans. I still couldn't determine if that bump was accidental, but given what I know of her now, well, let's just say she was. I doubt it. Her apology was a stunned reaction to her own appearance. She offered to take me out for dinner, but I politely declined. Her manners were exceptional, though. It was enough to hook me right then and there. Even though her beauty alone could have done it, I must have been desperate to apologize. I distinctly remember saying, I want to show you I'm so sorry, as if that would change anything. Isabella's voice pierced through my thoughts. Some women know how to play the game. William, you guys can be pretty easy sometimes. She was referring to my entire narrative so I ended up right back where I'd met Karen, and she was right. I had indeed ended up back where I'd met Karen. So there you were, unpacking all that drama, and suddenly it must have hit you. Isabella knows her L stuff. You were fishing for some free advice, right, Isabella? She tried to keep the mood light with a joke as she brought up yesterday's story. Listen, I interrupted. I'm a lawyer, but that didn't stop your barrage of questions. Her voice trailed off, and I could see a hint of irritation flickering in her eyes before it faded away. I squirmed uncomfortably in my seat. I was feeling the weight of the situation bearing down on me. I'm sorry, Isabella, I said. I muttered a mix of gratitude and embarrassment, washing over me. So, did we manage to come up with any sort of plan yesterday? I was clutching at straws, hoping she had conjured a miracle. Plan from the chaos of last night. Isabella's smile was reassuring and teasing all at once. She said that none of the plans we came up with were viable, but she was ready to help anyway. Don't worry, I've seen worse in my line of work. Your situation is tough, but it's not insurmountable. Our conversation got me thinking about something that happened a while back. I was just starting out in business and needed to get a contract. I had to set up a limited liability company to secure it. I was meeting with the client and you set up the company in your name and then transferred it to me. Isabella, you were studying law at the time, right? How does that relate to now? I leaned forward, excited as the pieces started to fall into place. What if we use a similar strategy? I suggest creating a legal buffer or perhaps setting up a new entity to protect the company's assets. That would make it harder for Karen to claim a stake, especially given the circumstances of our impending divorce. Isabella nodded slowly, a legal mind evaluating the possibilities. It's a start, she conceded, but we'll need to proceed with caution. The book is completely above board, or it could backfire spectacularly. I could see the gears turning in her head. She was thinking about her professional instincts. Let's review everything. Let's look at your company structure, your assets, everything we need to have a comprehensive picture so we can devise a plan. The conversation changed from technicalities to strategies and legalities. But beneath it all, there was something more. There was a rekindled connection and a shared goal. Isabella was no longer just the high school sweetheart or the chance encounter from the night before. She was my rock, my beacon of hope in the storm that had engulfed my life. As we discussed the burden on my shoulders, it began to lift, replaced by cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, with Isabella's help I could navigate this mess. I reflected on protecting what I had painstakingly built, and potentially finding not only an illegal ally but also a chance of personal redemption in this unexpected reunion. My mind was racing with ideas after parting ways with Isabella. I couldn't allow my soon-to-be ex, my wife, was walking away with everything I had worked so hard for. Then it struck me, her Toyota. She adored that car, seeing it as a symbol of her status. Little did she know I was the one quietly managing the payments in the background. Ellen didn't have a passion for cars. She could barely distinguish between a Nissan and a Honda. However, she recently developed an uncharacteristic infatuation with a bent of the convertible. It was a luxury far beyond the practical elegance of her current vehicle. "I've done my research." She said it with a smile. "You love BM, do you?" "As your loving wife, I want to match your tastes." The irony of her words, given her betrayal, wasn't lost on me. When I saw how Karen had suddenly taken to that convertible, it became clear to me that this extravagant desire must have been inspired by her lover. Karen had never shown any particular interest in cars, let alone such a specific and luxurious model. This sudden shift in taste felt too orchestrated, too perfectly aligned with the ostentatious statement her lover would likely make. I didn't have any proof at the time that the car was a promise to her lover, but I had a feeling that it was. It was probably his idea, a symbol of the extravagant life he wanted with Karen. Maybe it was even financed by my own downfall. It felt good to turn her own scheme against her. I might have been engaging in their risky game, but it felt like I was just playing my part in the chess match. Our relationship had gone downhill during the first call. I had to find the right balance between disappointment and excitement. "Darling, this business trip is going to take longer than I thought. I'm not sure when I'll be back." I tried to sound upbeat, but I was really hoping for a good surprise. "I have something special for you. I know you've been eyeing that BMW convertible, so I thought, why not? Let's go for it. I have it. A friend is interested in buying your Toyota, which works out perfectly in the meantime. My driver will take care of you with the limo service until we get the BM sorted out. How does that sound?" Karen's response was almost overly enthusiastic, tripping with the sweetness of someone who had just been promised the world. "Oh, darling, that's incredible. You always know how to cheer me up. I'm completely on board with this. Don't worry about the trip. I understand how these things go. Just knowing I have the convertible too, I'm looking forward to it." After the call, I felt a bit sad for the love that had once been genuine between us, now tainted by lies and betrayal. There was no turning back. I had to protect what I had built from the ground up. If that meant playing Karen's game, so be it. The ease with which she accepted the arrangement made me even more suspicious and resolved. This was more than just a wife excited about a new car. It felt like a victory. I'm not sure if it was meant to be a one-off or if she was planning to share it with her lover, but I'd make sure this victory was short-lived. I ended the call feeling more resolved than ever about seeing this through. My goal was to leave her in the lurch, and the game was already underway. Later, I briefed Isabella on the situation. Her reaction was a blend of professional detachment and personal insight. "You know, under different circumstances I might say this isn't like the Willie I know, but after everything she's done to you, it feels like she said she was to blame." She seemed to be trying to show sympathy while also offering practical support. Isabella leaned in and lowered her voice, as if sharing a secret strategy. "Since you've got the driver at her beck and call, why not use that to our advantage? We could set up a hidden camera in the apartment. It's a long shot, but if we catch her and her lover plotting against you, that footage could be golden." I liked the idea instantly. It was bold, slightly risky, but it felt like the right move. By the next day, the plan was in place. Once the hidden camera was in place, I knew I couldn't just sit back and wait for Karen's next move with the looming threat of divorce. I reached out to Isabella to brainstorm a new strategy face-to-face. I considered moving the major assets into trusts or other legal structures to shield them from Karen. Isabella listened thoughtfully, nodding at the plan. "I need a favor, Isabella." I laid my cards on the table, beyond legal advice. "I know you were listed as the company owner when I landed our first major client. I temporarily transferred assets to you to keep things under the radar. I appealed to William I, who was trying to cover all your bases." Isabella cautioned, her tone serious. "But What you're asking is a big step. We're venturing into tricky territory here. I really need you on this, Isabella. I pushed, feeling the urgency of the situation. You've been a huge help already, but this is different. Having you temporarily hold the assets. I know you're all about playing it safe as a businessman, William. Isabella responded, saying that this request is a lot more complicated than just making a safe play. I know I'm asking for a lot, and I wouldn't if I didn't trust you completely. We've been through a lot together, and you've always had my back. This isn't just about protecting my assets. It's about safeguarding the future of everyone who depends on this company, including our employees, families, our clients. You're not just helping me, you're helping all of them. Remember when you helped me get this going? You didn't just act as a lawyer, you acted as a friend who believed in me. I need that friend again, Isabella. After a moment of reflection, Isabella's expression softened, showing she agreed. Okay, William, for the sake of our past and the future of the company, let's get together and make sure we're bulletproof in our approach. Once Isabella was on board, we didn't waste any time. The first step was, transferring the company's ownership to her name was a big move, but it was important to keep the business out of Karen's reach. Thanks to Isabella's legal expertise, we made sure that every detail was handled carefully to secure our position. We also took care of the legal matters with Isabella. I finally had a chance to review the hidden camera footage, and what I saw left me stunned. But it provided exactly the evidence I needed. In the footage, Karen and her partner were casually discussing the BMW after their rendezvous. This was easy. Her partner said, "Once we're done with this guy, we could quit the scan life for good. Mark has never been this loaded. I'll get the BMW, and then you can pick out whatever set of wheels you want." That's when I realized this wasn't just casual. It was a full-scale hustle, and I was a jackpot. But with this footage, I suddenly had the upper hand. It wasn't just about safeguarding my assets. This could land them in serious trouble. After watching the footage, I couldn't just wait to share it with Isabella. She got on the case right away, involving the authorities before we even had a chance to blink. Karen and her accomplice were in handcuffs, facing some pretty serious consequences. I was pretty pleased with myself, kicking myself for falling for a scheme. How did I miss the signs? It turned out Karen was running an elaborate scam targeting affluent individuals at upscale hotels. Once the law got involved, their deceitful practices came to light, resulting in a slew of charges. Once the chaos with Karen's scams was resolved, thanks to the diligence of the police, I felt it was time to celebrate. The police did a great job, so I thought it was time to celebrate with Isabella over dinner. She looked at me in a way that made me think there might be more to it than just friendship. It made me think about a second chance with her. That dinner made me think about a fresh start with Isabella. I realized that maybe I had fallen out of love with her because I was looking for something I wasn't getting. Seeing Isabella again after everything that's happened with my ex and her partner made me realize that I could have a fresh start with her. I felt like I was finally getting a grip on things after what felt like an eternity, so I took the plunge and invited her out. Not explicitly saying it was a date, but secretly hoping it might turn into one. Despite my excitement, I started to have doubts. Why was I getting involved with Isabella again after everything with my ex? I found myself thinking that I should have had more options for contacting her. 5 days passed without a word from her, which made me feel like I'd risked my company in a futile attempt to shield it from my ex's schemes. When I discovered my ex's infidelity, I had a clearer strategy. I realized that this time around I didn't have a plan. I had thought that Isabella and I were developing something genuine, but with her absence, all that hope seemed to disappear. I was left with no other option but to seek solace in the hotel bar, attempting to silence the cacophony of thoughts with a potent drink. However, the whiskey might as well have been water for all the numbing effect it had. Just when I thought I had, I reached rock bottom, feeling foolish and lost. I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder, and there she stood, Isabella, wearing that smile that could brighten any day. "Hey, I'm really sorry for disappearing like that." She went on to explain how her father was now on the road to recovery. Once things settled down, she immediately returned to the city, still without a new phone. "I took a chance hoping to bump into you at the hotel. I figured you might be around." She was clearly eager to get back to her meal, as if she hadn't eaten in days. I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. We spent the rest of the evening catching up, reminiscing about old times and exchanging stories about everything we had missed in each other's lives. It felt as if no time had passed at all, yet here we were with so much to share as the night drew to a close. As the day drew to a close, I realized that perhaps this was exactly what I needed, a fresh start, not just in love but in life. Isabella, I've been doing some thinking. I began feeling a bit nervous, but I knew it was now or never. After everything that had happened, I've realized that life is too short to hold back. I don't want to miss out on a second chance with you. Isabel looked at me, a soft smile spreading across her face. William, I felt the same way. I was just too scared to say anything, especially with everything you were going through. So there we were, two old friends on the verge of something new. We decided to take things slow, ensuring we weren't merely rebounding or caught up in the moment. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, it became evident that what we had was genuine. Fast forward, and life was looking my company was back on track and stronger than before. As for Isabella and me, we're planning more than just dinner dates these days. Who would have thought that out of all the chaos, I'd find my way back to someone who had been there from the start? It goes to show that sometimes you have to weather the storm to find your sunshine. Please post a comment to let me know what you think of this story.